For today's double review, we have two indie games that both have interesting premises that I wish was developed a little bit more, with Trinity Fusion and Howl. Trinity Fusion is an action roguelite similar to that of Dead Cells, but with a more sci-fi theme. Our story is that a universe decides to create a multiverse in of itself in order to kind of create perfect harmony. But when the three other kind of parallel universes go awry and are now careening towards chaos and destruction, it's up to our hero and her multiversal selves in order to save the day one universe at a time. The general concept of this one is that you'll decide which character to play as, and this will determine which of the three universes you'll explore. And this will also affect what bosses, biomes, and enemies that you'll find. Each character has kind of different starting abilities, and you do have the option to merge characters in order to kind of gain access to their unique weapons and so on. And this does become a factor, as completing the major objectives in each universe will grant that respective character kind of a unique power or unique ability that can be used to explore more, get access to additional areas, and so on. Such as one character who gets this kind of like launch yourself using like magic or special orbs kind of power that you see here. The kind of unique element of Trinity Fusion compared to some of the other roguelites is how weapons work. You have an experience or leveling up, as we see from most of these games, but instead of you leveling up and gaining access to new skills or new perks, your leveling up improves the quality of the weapons that you find. And this is a big deal, as the game features a somewhat gear rating system, that if your weapons are lower than the enemies that you're currently fighting, they will suffer a damage penalty. If they're equal or greater, you'll be able to do more damage that way. And this presents a very annoying aspect of the game. Because of how the gear rating works, it means that you are kind of punished if you're not getting lucky with good loot drops. Weapons come in various forms, including guns, swords, energy weapons, and of course they'll have different rarities and passives as well. Now, win or lose, you'll be taken back to kind of the central hub where you'll be able to apply persistent upgrades. These can unlock new quality of life features in future biomes or in later biomes, or provide bonuses for one of your kind of three selves. And there is certainly a lot of upgrades to find here. The gameplay itself, or at least the action, is on the decent side. You'll gain access to kind of different perks, and the game features a system where, as you collect kind of the same grouping of perks, get enough of them and you unlock kind of a special bonus. So just getting enough like attack perks may grant you lifesteal, or may give you increased damage, and so on. And those have to be found while you're exploring the world. So the basics of Trinity Fusion work, but the problem is that there just doesn't seem, at least from what I played, enough of these elements to make each run feel interesting. In order to actually beat the game, you must have a successful win in each universe, which means you'll have to play as each one of the three characters in order to get to the end. But there's just not enough difference between the three universes and difference between the different weapons and perks you find to make the runs feel all that unique and interesting. This is not a game like Dead Cells, where every weapon feels like its entirely unique thing, complete with its own unique rules, ways of doing damage, and synergies. Here, one sword kind of operates as the other swords. Guns pretty much feel the same, with exception to of course getting like single shot or heavy weapons. The different melee weapons do come with like a specific like combo or additional move that's unique to it, such as being able to do like a ground slam, upper attack, or just like a very light combo with it. But it's kind of hard to keep track of which weapons do what in the middle of combat, and at the end of the day, just like mashing attack or mashing shoot will oftentimes be enough to get past most of the enemies. Enemies can feel a little bit tanky at the start, especially until you unlock more of the upgrades, especially those that give you a higher chance of getting better quality weapons. I would have loved to have seen kind of the whole multiverse, altering universes angle play out a little bit more in the runs or in kind of how you can approach each one. This is a action roguelike that I enjoyed it, but if you're someone who did not like Dead Cells, and you're not a fan of that style of action roguelike, Trinity Fusion is not going to change your mind. And if you did enjoy Dead Cells or are still playing it, this one unfortunately feels a little bit limited compared to it. So if you are tired of the kind of fantasy angle of the Dead Cells action roguelite and looking for one that's a little bit more sci-fi, there may be something here for you, but I just again wish that there was a little bit more gameplay attached to the entire story and lore of it. We switch from action to some more puzzle thinking with Howl. In this one, we play as a guardian who is trying to keep her land safe from a mysterious werewolf curse, where anyone who hears the howl of a werewolf will turn to one themselves. Being deaf makes her completely immune to that effect, so she must set out with bow and magic in order to deal with the curse, save her family, and of course protect the people around. The game itself presents itself as a kind of like a puzzle turn-based strategy affair. How this works is that each turn you'll dictate where she'll move and which direction she will face. The wolves follow basic behavior. Once you are kind of within their range, they will move according to you. They will always try to move kind of horizontal to you rather than vertical first. And this is a very important aspect of how the combat and puzzles work. You see, you start each battle with 3 arrows that you can use to deal with an enemy, provided you can hit them with it. As you move around and your timeline in the bottom of the screen, at different measures on the timeline, you'll be able to activate unique powers that you'll unlock and upgrade using the game's 2 currencies. By completing maps within the requested time frame or turn frame, you'll gain confidence that can be used to improve your timeline and your powers. By killing the wolves, you'll gain wolves' heads, which are used to unlock kind of the new areas or additional challenges on the map. So here's the thing about Howl. While the game kind of markets and positions itself as a puzzle game, in actuality it feels more like a turn-based strategy game. And the reason is how the maps are played. You see, it is literally impossible on a lot of the maps to complete both the turn challenge and the combat challenge at the same time. You simply don't have enough moves, and there's also the issue of unlocking more powers. You can return to previously completed maps using your newly acquired powers or upgrading your timeline to make things easier for you. A big thing about this game is you really want to unlock and fully raise your timeline to its max. This increases the amount of turns, or the amount of actions you can do on a single turn, and in the early levels, this will trivialize the kind of turn limit, and on the later levels, it is required. Now, as another important point, the game by default does not give you any kind of unit predictions in terms of where a character will move, where your shot's going to go, etc, etc. You can turn that on using the assist mode option, and I would honestly suggest doing that very early, because it makes it a lot easier to kind of read and parse what is going on. As the game goes on, you'll have to deal with additional wolves types, such as those that can jump at you, boss wolves, and so on, and having this information just kind of makes this, again, more of a strategy game rather than kind of being a full-on puzzle. So Howl is definitely an unusual game in that respect. If you're looking for kind of a traditional puzzle-style game where you're trying to win each map the most optimal way each time, I don't think it's really going to work for you in that respect. But if you're looking for kind of a very light turn-based strategy game with unlocks and progression, then there might be something here for you in that respect. So with that said, we're going to wrap up this double review here. Both games were played with press keys provided by the developers. If you let me tell your games or game for a future stream and video, please reach out. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.